This week. Today is no different, as we'll be here until 4 p.m. Lots of topics to get to. I'm your host, Anita Blanton, and let's go over some of the things that we have lined up for this first hour that we have here together. We have been checking in with officials both here in our state and also in Michigan over the last 24 to 48 hours regarding water levels for many lakes and rivers. If you were with us, in fact, yesterday, you'll recall that we went to a press conference near the Sheboygan Dam in Michigan, as it was just a mere 6 inches away from overflowing. Camille Amiri from our sister station in Detroit is going to be here with us to give us the latest on that situation, a developing situation as they've been monitoring those water levels. Also, a Chicago family taking their loved one's story to Washington, D.C. And this is part of a national effort to ensure that lives lost to gun violence, which we see so much of here in our area, are seen, heard, and remembered. They have agreed to chat with us today here on the show about all that they have been through, all that they're advocating for, the changes that they wish to see before they head that way. That'll be a little bit later on in the hour. Also, Professor James Vaughn from U Chicago is going to be joining us to help make sense of what's become some pretty controversial statements from Secretary Pete Hegseth that caught a lot of people by surprise, drawing some comparisons to the nation's first major war fought outside of the New World back in the 1800s. So again, lots to get to. Then we're going to go in a lot of different directions here. I want to point out a few things that we're monitoring via our live streams here. Maybe most importantly, let's take you to our chopper. We have a report of this is a report, okay? We're still working to confirm all of the information here, but we do have a report of a child shot. This is around 63rd and Michigan, where the chopper is headed right now. So as we get more information about that situation, we will let you know what's going on there. We're also monitoring things in Salt Lake City, Utah. The man accused of killing Charlie Kirk wants a judge to ban cameras from the courtroom. He says live broadcasts of the prosecution are violating his rights to a fair trial, so we're monitoring that as well. And then we're monitoring things with the Strait of Hormuz, of course. The president announcing this morning Iran kind of giving a second opinion that Iran's foreign minister saying the vital trade point here, the Strait of Hormuz, is fully back open. So we'll be getting more information about that, as well as it has been a crucial piece of what will be crucial piece, P-E-I-C-E, or P-I-E-C-E, to peace, P-E-A-C-E, in the future. So peace talks are scheduled or likely to happen again in Pakistan, but the Strait of Hormuz was definitely a big piece of that. All of those things said, we want to get to our first conversation here, the latest on the arrest of singer David, real name David Anthony Burke, in connection to the murder of a teenage girl. TMZ executive producer David Babcock is here with the details. So many people have been following this story for about 2 years now.
Yeah, I thank you for having me. This has been for quite a while here now, a story that has been followed by a lot of people. I mean, the reality is that David was a really popular singer, musician who was, really getting that traction on a mainstream level. So was really well known on social media, on TikTok and places like that, but again, was getting bigger and bigger by the day. That was until about 7.5 months ago or so, when the remains of a teenage girl, Celeste Rivas, who was only 14 years old, was found in the trunk of his Tesla. Now, the car had been left on a side street in the Hollywood Hills. It was eventually towed, and it was in an impound lot when somebody noticed that something was not right with the vehicle, and they ultimately check, and again, they find the remains of this poor girl in the car. And from that point on, there has been this really comprehensive and expansive investigation trying to figure out what happened, but nearly 8 months go by without an arrest. That is until last night, when this very elite squad of robbery homicide in Los Angeles, they go and they've got the cavalry with them and they make the arrest. And David, right now, as we sit here and speak, is sitting in a jail cell in Los Angeles. The interesting part here is that there are not actually charges yet from the district attorney. The DA has said, we don't know if we can get a conviction here, and we're going to go over the facts on Monday, but it's very possible that they may look at this and say, okay, yeah, I don't think that there's enough here to charge this guy, and he could ultimately walk free in just a couple of days. So this is a very pivotal time for David and for this case.
Yeah, it is mind-boggling that a body could be found in the trunk, and yet 8 months even goes by before we even get to this point.
I agree, and that actually ended up being part of the challenge here, is that, and not to get too graphic here, but the remains, the body of Celeste Rivas was in the vehicle for a little bit of time, and that made a lot of the early things especially difficult in identifying her, trying to figure out a manner of death. Those were really two gigantic obstacles for investigators. Now, ultimately, they did find out that it was Celeste Rivas, and secondly, the medical examiner ultimately came to the conclusion that this was a murder, because, I mean, the reality is there are a couple different ways you could have imagined this unfolding. There was a universe where this might not have been a murder, but perhaps there could have been, an accidental death here, and then you're looking at very different charges, right? If he was perhaps involved in something that, again, wasn't necessarily him harming her, but if something happened to her that that didn't involve him, but he was there, and then he handled it in the completely wrong way, that again would be a very different case. So the authorities had to really know for certain how she died, what happened, and then be able to link that back to him. And I think the police at least believe that that's the point where they're at. Does the district attorney think he is there? Ultimately, he's the one that has got to walk into that court and try and get a conviction here. And they don't want to bring cases that they're going to lose, and certainly not high-profile cases. They've been down this road before, O.J. Simpson, and I don't think they want to go back.
Yeah, I mean, we just had the conversation about the Charlie Kirk case and the whole issue of cameras. You brought up OJ, which is when the cameras in the courtroom became everything to people watching it across the country. So yeah, high profile cases, so many eyeballs on them. And you would wonder, okay, if there are no charges that have been filed as of yet, are they saying death investigation, or are they specifically saying murder investigation? And could this end up being like concealment of a dead body versus you actually killed her?
Yeah, absolutely. To answer your last question, I think absolutely. They arrested him, so LAPD arrested him for suspicion of murder. So that was the reason for the arrest, but it ultimately means nothing if there is no actual charge, because if there's no charge, then the case, there is no case. It just goes nowhere, because it's not the LAPD, it's not police, obviously, that ultimately has to prosecute him. So it would seem to be that there is a split here between where the cops and the prosecutors stand on this, and I think the police say, okay, hey, he did it, we have enough, and we need to get this guy in a jail cell. And the prosecutors say, yeah, not so fast here. Thinking that he did it and being able to prove he did it are two very different thresholds to reach. And I mean, for instance, to kind of illustrate, the DA has for 5 months had a grand jury running in LA. They have had this grand jury seated, and they have been showing them, witness after witness after witness, and evidence, and they have not handed down an indictment. And I guess the police said, okay, well, we're not going to wait for the DA, we're just going to go do it ourselves, pressuring the DA to now, kind of put up or shut up with these charges. But again, they're just not going to charge him if they don't think they can get the conviction. And then he will walk free on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever it might be. He will walk free someday next week if they don't charge him.
Do we know who his attorneys are? Again, going back to the cases that we've kind of brought up, for OJ, you had this dream team of people, and there are certain attorneys, when they link up with certain people, you're like, well, you better have your case airtight.
Right. I think that's a great point. Maybe not the fame or, kind of the name recognition that OJ had with Johnny Cochran and Robert Shapiro and F. Lee Bailey and all those guys, But he does have a really accomplished team of attorneys, including a woman by the name of Blair Burke, who was a top attorney out here, a great trial attorney, great defense attorney, and she is incredibly formidable. So, this will not be a situation where the district attorney here in LA just rolls over David's side. They are very formidable. They will put up a fight. And they've already come out today, by the way, and said, yeah, this is nonsense. Dave, the evidence, I get there's a lot of talk about the case and people may think they've got an idea of what happened, but they say, David's attorneys, that he had, not only did he not murder anybody, but that he had nothing to do with her death at all. So seemingly also saying that, again, he had nothing to, if it was accidental or something like that, that he had nothing to do with that either. So he says he's innocent, and seems like we're going to have a big fight on our hands here sometime over the next few months. And
there's a few reasons why people think they have an idea of what happened. I mean, obviously the biggest red flag is how in the world did this body get in your trunk? But let's say, okay, maybe you don't know how it got there.
Right.
A lot of people have pointed to his song lyrics and certain things in his lyrics that they believe kind of point to maybe this something happening between he and this young lady.
Yeah, and it's unclear exactly the nature of their relationship, but they had some sort of relationship. Whether it was romantic or not, that's not clear. There is reason to believe that it was. He had seemingly referenced her in some of the music. They had the same tattoo. They had been seen together many times. Celeste's mom even said that her daughter had a boyfriend named David. So again, a lot to suggest that this was a romantic relationship. He was a bit older than her. He is 21 years old now. She was 14 when she was found. I believe she would have turned 15 by now, but still there's an age difference. It wouldn't have been legal, but obviously we know that doesn't necessarily stop these kind of things from happening. So yeah, there are a lot of questions here that still need to be answered. Also, he is somebody who is a young guy living in LA that's got money, who had a lot of people who would stay at his house, be at his house, hanging out with him. He'd be on the road. I wouldn't think it's too far-fetched for them to say, look, it might have been his Tesla because he's the guy with the money, but it's not he wasn't the only person that had access to the vehicle. And in fact, he wasn't even in town when she was found. So perhaps you look at somebody else who he was connected to, but not being him. So there's a lot. It's not a slam dunk by any stretch. This is a very difficult case to prove.
And you mentioned her mother, has her family spoken out anymore, especially since these new developments?
Not since the arrest was made. There's a bit of a language barrier there, and so her mom hasn't spoken all that much. She has here and there over the course of these last 8 months, but to my knowledge has not spoken out since the arrest last night. But I'm sure the family is very pleased. I mean, they had a bit of a strained relationship, Celeste, and her mom, where she had, run away numerous times in the past. And I know her mom was, and this is what we've been told, that her mom was desperately trying to bring her back to the home and make sure that she was safe. And for it to end like this is just such a tragic end.
It's definitely a heartbreaking end to any teenager's life on multiple levels. Thank you so much for getting us up to date on it, and I guess we'll have to see what happens in the next few days.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Have a good weekend. Everyone, it's about 1:14 right now. The chopper has made it to that scene that we were hearing about again. We're still waiting on more information about what exactly happened here, but you can see police are there on the scene, so there is some type of investigation going on. We had reports of a child shot at 63rd and Michigan. I don't see a number of police vehicles there. So again, we're waiting on more information. As soon as we get more information, we'll be passing that along to you. But right now, all we have is a view right now above the scene here where Chopper has made it to 63rd and Michigan. You could see that there was some police activity there, maybe speaking to some people on the scene. I didn't even see an ambulance. That's That's not to say that it couldn't have already come and gone, but we do have reports of a child shot. So we're waiting on more information. It looks like they're trying to go maybe to a different angle to see exactly what is going on here. Starting to zoom in. And even from this side, let's see here. All right, we may have more police vehicles there from this view here. But again, I still don't see an ambulance necessarily for a report of a child shot, but there's definitely a lot of police activity. So when we have more information, we will pass that along to you, again, from 63rd and Michigan. We're going to take a 2-minute break, everyone, and we'll get back with you and plug along to our next conversation here. 2 minutes and we're back. Okay, everyone, it is 1:18 right now. We're still piecing together a scene at 63rd and Michigan here that the chopper is over. Before we get to our next conversation, I just want to pass along the latest piece of information that I have here, and that it's believed that could have possibly been a road rage incident, that a child was shot in a car during a road rage incident. And again, we're not exactly sure where that may have happened, the nature of the injuries at this point in time, but we could see a lot of police activity as we were kind of moving around that building there at 63rd and Michigan. There was red tape that was up. We are still waiting on more confirmation of exactly what has taken place, but that's the latest piece of information that I can give you about what we were seeing there at 63rd and Michigan. We'll continue to pass along any little piece of information that we get, but we do want to get to our next conversation here with Professor James Vaughn from Chicago. He is an expert on the Revolutionary period, okay? And we brought him in after Secretary Hegseth made some comments that have stirred a lot of people up. surprised a lot of people, and then got a lot of people wondering exactly the historical aspect of what he's saying. What he said was, we have a long track record of dealing with pirates and terrorists, speaking to the war in Iran. Professor James Vaughn is here with me now. Thank you so much for coming back on the show.
Thank you for having me.
What were your initial thoughts of that statement?
Given the wider context of the statement, in which obviously Secretary Hegseth was trying to present the I guess, current Iranian regime, whoever the new leaders are, with a pretty stark proposal, I didn't immediately catch the reference to, we've had a long history of dealing with pirates and terrorists. But, upon reflection, obviously what he's talking about goes back to the beginning of the Republic, to the early United States.
Mm-hmm. And so some point back to President Thomas Jefferson and some of his actions back in the early 1800s. Can you give us more historical perspective on that?
Sure. Essentially, during the 17th and 18th centuries, so we're talking the 1600s and the 1700s CE, the Mediterranean had a lot of pirate activity, particularly the Barbary pirates, or the Barbary corsairs. They basically were pirates who launched from ports in North Africa, from the Barbary states, sort of in today's Tunisia, Algeria, Libya. And they were nominally under the control of the Ottoman Empire, the Ottoman Turks, but they were relatively independent. And basically, they raided any ships that traveled into the Mediterranean. They claimed that they had the right to stop and raid any ships that traveled in the Mediterranean that didn't have Muslim sailors, Muslim captains, so forth, that they could attack, assault heathens. And as a result, many Westerners, that is, I'm talking about people from Europe and from the Americas, who were obviously from typically a Christian background, were at risk, particularly in the 18th century, if they sailed into the Mediterranean, being stopped by the Barbary pirates, and subsequently their ship being boarded, their property being seized, and many of them enslaved, sold into slave markets in North Africa. And what had happened over time is essentially European powers had cut deals with the rulers of the Barbary states and with the Barbary pirates to effectively not have their ships stopped and plundered. They would pay a tribute. So basically, British monarchs and French monarchs and Spanish monarchs, European rulers of one sort or another, paid an annual tribute to the Barbary pirates, the Barbary states, to make sure that they had freedom of navigation, freedom of the seas in the Mediterranean world. Now, colonial American ships, that is, we're talking about ships, sailors who left from colonial British North America before it came to the United States, up until the War of American Independence, they had protection because, of course, colonial British North America was part of the British Empire. They were under the British Parliament, the British Crown. So they had protection because the British government paid the regular tribute to the Barbary states to make sure that their ships were not attacked by Barbary pirates. But because of the success of the American Revolution and the achievement of the independence of the United States, American ships and sailors, we're talking now the later 1780s, the 1790s, don't have British imperial protection anymore. And furthermore, the young country, the young United States, doesn't have a great deal of revenue resources. And so the cost of paying that regular tribute to the Barbary states and the Barbary pirates is quite high. I believe, but I'm not certain, kind of off the top of my head, to pay that regular tribute was something like 1/4 to 1/5 of the gross income in revenue of the new independent American government, the federal government. So we're talking, it cost about 20 to 25% of yearly revenue of the federal government to pay that tribute. And so there was a decision taken under President Thomas Jefferson. He ran on it in the election campaign of 1800, sometimes referred to as the Revolution of 1800. And one of the things in his campaign platform, he and his Democratic Republican Party, is that they would not pay this tribute anymore to the Barbary States and the Barbary pirates, and that they would in fact uphold the freedom of the seas, the freedom of navigations, by confronting and dealing with the corsairs and the pirates in the Mediterranean.
So he's making this comment referencing the Strait of Hormuz, and President Trump has talked about even the possibility of receiving payments for people to go through. I mean, the breaking news today, of course, was that both sides, Iran and the U.S., are saying the Strait of Hormuz is back open. Is the reference to Thomas Jefferson and the actions that he took back then, is this a one-to-one comparison, or is this apples and oranges?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm sorry to give you this answer, but it's kind of half an apple, half an orange. That is to say, he is definitely referring back to these Barbary corsairs, these Barbary pirates that the presidential administration of Thomas Jefferson confronts. And the reason why I think that the comparison is half one-to-one is because it's really the first great exercise of the U.S. Navy, that is the independent United States Navy, to travel across the Atlantic to the Mediterranean Sea and to confront the Barbary pirates, and in fact, to have blockades on the ports and coasts of the Barbary states so that goods and services can't be imported and exported. So a kind of fiscal and indeed, in addition to a military pressure, can be applied to the Barbary states to stop this piratical activity. So in that sense, given the fact that what's going on in Iran right now, the Strait of Hormuz, is very much a naval exercise, probably the most important U.S. naval activity in recent history, that aspect is a one-to-one comparison, because Jefferson's confrontation of the Barbary pirates, of the corsairs, is, I would say, the first great independent naval activity of the United States. To another degree, the reason why it doesn't work, of course, is because this was a war of choice. That is to say, there was freedom of the seas, there was freedom of navigation on the Straits of Hormuz, until the Trump administration made the decision to undertake a war of choice against the Iranian regime. And as a result, the Iranian regime, one of the kind of, people use this term, I'm sorry to use it, asymmetric warfare. It's obvious that, on the battlefield, the United States fighting Iran is like an elephant fighting a fly. So the Iranian regime is unsurprisingly turning to asymmetric warfare and shooting missiles and using drones to threaten freedom of the seas, freedom of navigation, commercial shipping. And as a result, though, you could characterize what the Iranian regime is doing as a defensive action, right? It's essentially a weapon of the weak. They do not have the military capacities to match, or indeed to rival, much less match, the United States. So they're essentially violating freedom of the seas, freedom of navigation, by using drones and missiles to interfere with commercial shipping across the Strait of Hormuz. But the reason why I would say it's half, not a one-to-one comparison, it's not a good comparison, is of course because you could interpret the Jefferson administration's actions as defensive. I mean, I don't want to be mistaken here. The Jefferson administration was definitely going on the offense, but they were going on the offense in order to defend what was widely recognized as a right of navigation, of freedom of the seas, that the Barbary corsairs and pirates were violating. Whereas in this case, I think you have to say, whether you agree with the war or whether you disagree with the war, that the U.S. is certainly the offensive power. It was a war of choice, and it decided to undertake this war. And as part of their defensive strategy, this much reduced, much weakened Iranian leadership is clearly lashing out with things like violating the freedom of the seas, freedom of navigation, by shooting missiles and using drones to interfere with commercial shipping. Although obviously, seeing the news this morning, it looks like that's no longer the case.
Yeah, I mean, it remains to be seen what kind of bargaining chip the Strait of Hormuz will be from now on, now that this has taken place. But we are all glad to see that it is back open, apparently, at least for today, and hope that it continues to stay that way as negotiations continue on. Thank you so much for coming on the show, helping us to kind of parse through a lot of history and present day as well.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate it. Have a good weekend.
You too.
It's 1:30, everyone. Give us 2 minutes and we'll be back. Hey, welcome back, everyone. You know, we have been following breaking news of the possibility of a child being shot. Every time we hear of a report, whether they're confirmed or not, I mean, it does something to all of us here in the city of Chicago and nationwide. These are things that you never want to hear about. You hope that each and every time there is an instance, at the very least, that someone walks away, albeit maybe forever changed from an incident. But then there are so many families whose family dynamics have been changed for good for losing a loved one. And for sure, Trey, who is the brother of a young man who was killed outside of a church in 2006, was a church musician, has been changed for sure, and is now taking his story, taking his advocacy to Washington, D.C. to rally. Thank you so much for being here and for being vocal to share your story.
Definitely happy to be here.
Tell me about why you and your family are going to the March for Our Lives.
Yeah, so we are going to DC for the 30 Under 30 campaign. Campaign launched by March for Our Lives, Change the Rep, where it highlights the lives that were taken too soon. So Forbes usually has a 30 under 30 list of very prominent young people doing amazing things. And our story highlights those young lives that were taken too soon, that never got the chance to live up to the different expectations they may have had for themselves, such as my brother, who was a gospel musician here in Chicago, looking to play music for the world, and his life was tragically taken that turn.
Yeah, I mean, going to play gospel music at a church, and obviously we have seen church shootings happen in various parts of the country. It is one of those places, similar to school, but still, where you expect a level of safety. You expect that your life will be respected. If you can, if you will, take me back to the day that you lost your brother.
Yeah. So it was April 4th, 2006. Crazy enough, that's about 20 years ago now. And we, were at home, me and my dad doing my homework. We received a phone call that Terrell had been shot. We knew that, he was at choir rehearsal getting ready and thought he was at a place that would be safe, church. And then we got that phone call, and then we went to the scene and learned about everything that happened, and later found out that he passed away. And just, dealing with that and following that, my family and myself, we all got involved in the violence prevention space, whether it's myself through the Brave Youth Leaders and March for Our Lives, and my mom with Purpose Over Pain, which is a parent group that helps survivors and supports other families and siblings get through the pain of losing a loved one.
Yeah. Transitioning pain into purpose is a hard but admirable, honorable thing that you all have done. He was just 18 years old, and you think at the age of 18, your whole life is in front of you. What were his plans? What were his goals and dreams?
Yeah, his goal was to play music for the world. He, just loved playing bass guitar, and he, planned on eventually being able to travel the world and do that. Actually, a couple months prior, he was on TV playing bass. So he had started getting closer to achieving that dream. But, his life was still quite short.
When you speak of what took place, what took his life, when you are in the company of others who are in a club no one wants to be in, what is that like?
A lot of times survivors can feel alone, but being around other survivors, there are things that we understand that people might not get, whether it's the way we talk about someone whose life has been taken, whether it's, how we react on random days when we think of those loved ones. Just being surrounded by other survivors provides another sense of support that you really can't even get from your own family unless they've been through the same experience.
People, will say, and I do believe this, that, grief is a journey. You will experience a lot of different emotions along that journey, and there's no destination. You're just on a continuum of emotions, dealing with grief. Did losing Terrell ever make you sour on the city of Chicago?
Oh yes, yeah. Through different ways. One, just feeling that the city took my brother, and then also the response that we received, following his shooting. Although he was shot and killed in church, we were, approached as if he was in a gang. He was vilified in some of the media as they were saying it was a gang-related shooting, while nothing was even reported or anything came back from the police, as well as his case still remaining unsolved. While other cases move pretty fast when it comes to high-profile shootings or officer-related shootings. So it was a lot of, for sure, sour feelings when it came to the city of Chicago. But through the years and the work that we've been able to do in the violence prevention space, that's turned around because I've worked with so many amazing people in the community doing this prevention work, and just the communities in general. It's been just an amazing experience in the work.
What are some of the things that you advocate for or against in the efforts to save more lives?
Yeah, so one of the things that we advocate for is increased CVI funding, or in the violence prevention field. So whether that's more resources for survivors, whether that's burial assistance, whether that is funding for street outreach or youth programs that teach young people how to be activists, we really fight for those things. And one of the biggest things we're fighting for right now is actually called the Rifle Act, which will hold gun manufacturers accountable for their firearms being recovered at crime scenes. So instead of the taxpayers paying the full brunt towards these, problems that gun violence cause, the gun manufacturers will have to pay their fair share as well.
And I believe that just passed at least one portion, one big hurdle in Springfield recently, right?
We're making some progress. We're making a lot of big progress, and we have our advocacy day coming up for it. So we're for sure making some huge strides with it.
Mm-hmm. And so when you go to Washington, D.C., it's not your first time going. What do you expect to see? What do you expect to come from it?
I really hope that the nation understands that the lives being taken are more than just numbers, more than just statistics, but these are future world leaders, future change makers. When you think of 30 under 30, those are young people who are bound to do amazing things in the nation and in the world. And we need to understand how many of those change makers we're losing to gun violence while it's being the #1 cause of death for children in America.
That statistic is always so shocking, so saddening, but it is real. I mean, that is a fact. How's your mother?
She's doing well. She's doing well. The work is what keeps her going and keeps her, from being down. Her being able to help parents who have been in the same situation or who are, entering into this unfortunate club. So she's maintaining just through being able to provide support for other families.
Mm-hmm. And do you ever feel like, I mean, the statistic we were just talking about, like, do you feel like you're moving the needle? Do you feel like, sometimes even for us in news, you feel like you want to see things change. It breaks my heart every time we report on a young person, especially lost in the city or beyond. Is it frustrating, or do you really feel like some movement is happening, some change is happening, even if we still see some of the same statistics that are troubling?
Yeah, it just really depends on the day. So some days are still frustrating when we're still losing people. But I can say through, being in this work now 20 years, we have seen movement. We've seen, decreases in numbers here in Chicago. We've seen decreases in cities across the nation like Baltimore and places like that have funded violence prevention measures. So we're seeing movement. But it can still be frustrating when we're losing people in our communities, in our programs, and still continuing the fight.
Yeah. Well, I am ever sorry for the loss in your life, but also appreciative of how you have used it to try to help save others. And I'm sure that you have saved others in 20 years of doing this work. Thank you so much for making the time for us before you head to Washington, D.C. And how long will you be there?
We'll be out there till Wednesday, so about 3 days or so.
Okay, 3 days. I'm sure a lot of conversations, and I hope that you'll continue to beat the drum, continue to speak up on your brother's behalf and on so many others who may not have a voice like yours.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for your time. It is 1:43, everyone. We're going to take a 2-minute break, and then we're going to bring in a reporter from our sister station to give us an update on the water levels that have been pretty extreme in the state of Michigan. Welcome back, everyone. It's 1:45 right now, and we have seen, the systems, the weather systems that have come through our area this week really put water levels into flood stage. We've seen it in our area. In fact, this is the second day that our chopper has been up, kind of zooming in on certain areas where we have had more water than others. Fox River, at one point in time, we were looking at yesterday also the Des Plaines River. We spoke with some of the officials in that area as they've been monitoring the water levels there as well. But nothing really compares to what we have seen near the Sheboygan Dam. And that is where we find Camille Amiri from our sister station in Detroit. Get us up to date on how things have gone there. When we were listening into a press conference yesterday, it was like 6 inches from overflowing.
Well, we have actually breaking news that everything is actually back online. I'm going to step out of the way. This tweet coming in from the Michigan Emergency Management and Homeland Security Department saying that the hydraulic dam at the Sheboygan Lock and Dam Complex is officially online. Water levels are dropping. What you're looking at right now are live pictures of the pumping stations trying to get the water out. And if my photographer Adam can zoom into that pole you see with the number 1, you can see the water level, right? You can see where it was darker and now it's, there's no water there. That was water up to there, but it has dropped. This is the best news that we could report because this community has just been on edge for weeks as the water levels continued to rise. Yesterday, they were up to almost 5 inches up to the top of the dam. And the number 1 priority was to prevent the dam from bursting. Already, though, even though it hasn't, we have seen widespread flooding in the area. Specifically, there's a lake called Black Lake, and it's about 20 minutes from here, but all the lakes and tributaries and rivers all are connected. And this Black Lake, we saw major flooding in that area. Homes, water up to the homes, vehicles. It's a mess out there. So this really is the best news that I can report to you. The Department of Emergency Management, again, stating that this is under control. Governor Gretchen Whitmer had declared this a state of emergency. And because of that, all resources, all hands on deck are still here to work to make sure that the water levels go down and not go up. And that is what we're seeing. Again, that post right there with the water line is just proof in the pudding that this is actually working. So that is what's going on here. A lot of people have been watching this for days, weeks, and thankfully, again, this is brand new information that we're just getting, that the water levels are going down significantly. I'll send it back to you in the studio.
Camille, how much further do they expect it or want it to go down from what we're seeing? The example you gave of that pole, how much further are they expecting it to go down?
They haven't said specifically. We have reached out to them. This is just the first preliminary information that we've been getting. Obviously working around the clock to get the levels to go down. Even this morning, it was down 1/4 of an inch, and they were calling that a victory because it was going down and not going up. So just seeing that pole, it's hard for me to tell, but that looks like maybe 6 inches or so. So we're definitely seeing a lot of improvement, and we're seeing a lot of improvement very quickly.
Yeah, that's wonderful to see and to hear. Thank you for giving us that breaking news. We know that there have been flood warnings throughout your state. Are there some other problematic areas that you all are monitoring?
Yeah, Governor Gretchen Whitmer during the press conference yesterday said that including Sheboygan County, which is where we are right now, 33 counties in Michigan, she has declared a state of emergency. So that means obviously all federal resources, dollars available to help those areas. We are seeing flooding all over the state of Michigan. And really, we've had so much snow and so much ice, and then all of that melting plus heavy rains. It's kind of created this perfect storm to create this flooding, and really a lot of areas dealing with a lot of problems. Where we are working, Detroit, obviously a bit major metropolitan area, we have seen some flooding because we've had some heavy rains there, but nothing compared to what we're seeing here in the northern part of the state.
Mm-hmm. And when you give the emergency disaster declaration, is she being the governor, Gretchen Whitmer, is she expecting to have any issues with the federal government getting some funds flowing to your area?
Her press conference yesterday was very brief. She did not say anything about having any issues. She was actually very positive and very optimistic that they were going to get the water levels down, because all the departments are working together. We've got Department of the DNR, we've got Homeland Security, Emergency Management. I mean, we have departments working on the state, local, national, federal level, all working together hand in hand, all resources on deck to make sure that this dam doesn't burst. And of course, right now we're seeing that in action.
That's fantastic. Now, I would love to know, I mean, I don't know how long you've worked there, but what you would compare this to, if you would compare it to anything that you all have seen, or the concern of the level that it got to.
Well, we actually work about 4 hours south of here. But I can tell you that Midland, Michigan, which is in the central part of the state, had a dam burst 6 years ago. And it was at the height of the pandemic. It was in 2020, the summer of 2020. And we saw widespread flooding. We saw homes underwater when that dam burst. So that, I think, we have seen firsthand what it looks like when a dam bursts, and that is the number one thing that they did not want to have happen here.
Oh my goodness, yeah. And after seeing something like that, were people in this area like, we need to evacuate? We'll come back when when we find out if they're able to get the water levels down, but we don't want to even get caught in a situation like that? Were they already getting out of there, or did they kind of just do a wait and see?
Well, they had 3 levels here. Ready, set, go. Ready was just start to prepare. Set was have a plan in place. Have your car packed up, or every bag that you want to take by the door. They were talking about the P's, the pets, the prescriptions, the photographs, the possessions. If you need to evacuate at a moment's notice, what do you want to take with you? And then, of course, if we got to that level of go, which is get out, the dam is bursting. Thankfully, we have not reached that level. We won't reach that level now that the water levels are dropping. But yeah, it's been touch and go. And honestly, when we're at Black Lake, which is about 20 minutes from here, we did see a lot of homes. People had just decided that they were going to leave on their own. And also a lot of these homes are summer homes, so that's the people's secondary residence, someplace where they come during the summer holidays, when it's warmer out here. So they usually typically live downstate. That's their primary residence. But a lot of layers to this story, a lot going on.
Aha, okay, so they may have been worried from afar if it's a summer home. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it in the midst of what we know is a busy day for you, especially getting us up to date on the breaking news that just came out. Wonderful to hear.
Exactly.
All right, you take care. Everyone, it's 1:54 right now. We'll take a 2-minute break, and then I'm going to get you up to date on some of the things that are trending on our website before we get into the 2 o'clock hour. Okay, welcome back, everyone. It is 1:56 right now, and before we get into our conversations that are planned for the 2 o'clock hour, I'm going to tell you about some of the things that are trending on our website, some of the things that our team is working on right now. One of them, a big story that you'll be hearing about throughout the rest of the evening. You may recall, maybe not by name, but when Officer Crystal Rivera was shot and killed by her partner. This is a CPD officer, Chicago Police. Well, now there's video showing those moments of the team running into a building, and unfortunately when everything went wrong. There's been so much, and we've put a warning on there, so I'm giving you the warning here. We've also put a warning on the site, viewer discretion advised. Obviously it's showing some graphic content there, but so many people that have had questions about how all of this went down. This body camera and surveillance video now being released today showing the fatal shooting of Officer Rivera by her partner. There was a foot chase in Chatham last June when all of this happened. They were going after a suspect. The suspect ran into a building where there was another person, and then there were a lot of questions as to how everything proceeded from then, and there have been so many questions since, especially about that partner, Officer Carlos Baker, who fired the weapon. He said he was retreating from an apartment where that suspect was believed to be armed, but he ended up striking Officer Rivera, his partner, who later died from the gunshot wound to her back. Now, Rivera's family, like I said, there's been so many questions since that incident took place. Rivera's family has filed a wrongful death lawsuit alleging that Baker, Officer Carlos Baker, had a troubling disciplinary history, failed to follow protocol after the shooting. If you recall, he was relieved of his police powers some months after that shooting for a totally different reason. So there were some issues there. Again, this video has just been released today. It is now on our website, viewer discretion advised. If you would like to see it, it's there. If you'd like more context as to what happened, it's there on our website. But a story that really captured so many people's attention for quite some time, and now we're getting a new piece there from the video that's just been released. Also, there's been the back and forth over classes for CPS on May 1st. As of today, May 1st, classes will be in session. This was a debate between the CPS CEO and the CTU, and so this civic day of action is what it will be now for the school system. CPS schools will remain open. They are shifting to that focus on civic engagement, student activities. Students can attend rallies. They're not required to. They're not encouraged or discouraged, but they can attend rallies, including a major event that's going to be happening at Union Park with some district-provided transportation. But the plan, of course, is coming after this dispute between the leadership, the teachers union, over whether to cancel classes entirely. Initially, the CPS CEO said no, classes would be in session. The CTU said they wanted everyone to be off that day. This appears to be a bit of a compromise here. So we've had our political reporter Paris Schutz on this story that he has put on the website as well with our web team here, our digital staff, to give you more information about that. A lot of parents wondering should they make arrangements for a child that would be out of school on that day or not. The other major thing that's populating on our website is the weather. We'll be talking a little bit about that with our own meteorologist Mark Strell later on. It is a beautiful day outside right now, but it is not going to stay that way, and there are certainly some concerns for us later on, and we're going to go through some of the risks and some of the things that you need to be aware of as the hours progress through the evening. But let's get into our conversations for the 2 o'clock hour now. It's 2:01, and we're going to be talking about, outside of the weather, the draft coming up next week for the NFL. Today, of course, the NFL questions around here surround the Bears in the stadium, but next week it'll be who's going to be playing in whatever stadium they have in the future. So we'll be talking to Cassie Carlson about the draft, and right now we want to get into this issue of tick bites. Yeah, not something we really want to talk about, but need to talk about because tick season is here, and experts are actually warning it could be one of the worst tick seasons on record. Natalie Reggie with the Education and Outreach at the Paul Smith College Visitor Interpretive Center is joining me now. Thank you so much for your time. It's reggae.
It is reggae, just like the music. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to be on here.
Thank you so much for being here. Give us the information here. I mean, I think that you hear like, oh, it's tick season, and if you don't necessarily do like hiking or camping, you're thinking, is this information for me?
Absolutely. Typically ticks are something that you think about when you're hiking out in the wilderness, and you're maybe not even thinking about it when you're in the city or in a public park or in your backyard. But what's showing more and more is that they're spreading to areas that they previously weren't. And so that includes your backyard, public parks, even parks that are well maintained. Ticks are they're showing up and surviving in areas that they previously weren't found. And that is hugely due to milder winters, earlier springs, and warmer temperatures.
And that combination, it's done a number on us this year, apparently?
It sure has. So ticks are generally, they overwinter and they stay underneath the leaf pack or the snow, and they can actually survive pretty cold temperatures, but they need really, really extreme temperatures to actually get killed. And so we're finding that with the milder winters, they're able to survive, and they're actually emerging earlier and earlier into the spring. And what's happening is they're taking off and spreading into areas that they previously weren't found, including Illinois, Chicago, or northern areas that they weren't found previously.
Not what we want to hear. What are the dangers associated with ticks?
So ticks are really tricky. There's all sorts of species. The most common that you hear of are deer ticks, dog ticks, and now more commonly is the Lone Star tick. But they are vectors of disease, which is something to be concerned about, specifically with anywhere outside with either your pets or your children, or if you're taking walks either in vegetated areas or in parks. They're very, very hard to detect. They can be the nymphs, which are really tiny. They look like poppy seeds. And so if you're not doing a thorough check on yourself, you can come down with a disease if you're bitten and it's not found or treated properly.
Okay. And when you say treated properly, what is the treatment?
So the most common thing to do when you're outside and then come back in is really do a thorough tick check. And so what that looks like is either doing a self-check on your body, looking in areas that are usually warmer, so that's joints, your armpits, behind the knees, areas with hair. And if you don't see anything, great, but it's always great to shower after and try to wash them off. Another thing that you can do is you can actually heat your clothing up and throw it in the dryer on a high heat setting for about 10 minutes. But if you do end up getting bit by a tick, the best thing to do is to take fine tipped tweezers, grab it right on as close to the skin as you can and pull directly out. You want to avoid twisting or ripping them out, because the most important thing to get is the mouth part. That's what's transmitting the disease. And so after you remove it, you want to clean it with soap and water and just monitor your symptoms. And if you start having any weird symptoms, rash, fever, or are feeling weird in any way, then you'll want to then seek medical attention.
How long could they last on you before you start to see symptoms or experience symptoms?
So you'll start to see symptoms anywhere between 24 to 48 hours. It really depends on where you're bitten. And if the tick in fact does have the disease, not all ticks actually will carry the disease, but we're finding more and more that the disease is more prevalent. So If it has been embedded for a while, I would say I would seek medical attention regardless, and then they can actually test the tick once it's removed for the disease so that they can kind of keep track on where they're existing and where the disease might be found.
And if, let's say, you went camping with friends over the weekend, and by Thursday you see a rash on yourself, you go to the doctor and you find out that there was a tick on you. I mean, you don't necessarily know, like, oh, it got on me on Sunday to count the time. What's the difference between like finding it immediately and finding it maybe days down the road?
It really just depends on the individual person's reaction and if the tick does indeed have the disease. And what I would say is, regardless of the situation, if you had symptoms but you didn't maybe see a rash or a bite and didn't see the tick itself, it's still good to seek medical attention because they will actually give you antibiotics. So the timeline, as soon as you can get treated, is the best thing to do. And sometimes there's cases where these symptoms come up, and because you didn't see the tick, you may not have realized that it is tick related. So regardless of the situation, just knowing that ticks are out there and becoming more prevalent, it's really important to seek medical advice. And doctors all over the country are seeing that there's a huge uptick in cases regarding ticks. So this is something that is really on their mind, and they're going to be asking you questions about where you've been, where you've traveled, if you've been outside, and also if you have pets, because pets are also another conduit to bringing those into the household.
A lot of people associate ticks with Lyme disease. Is that an accurate association?
That's one of the major diseases that they carry. However, there's a whole bunch of other diseases. The one that is most concerning, aside from Lyme disease, is actually the one carried by the Lone Star tick, which is the alpha gal, and that makes you allergic to red meat and dairy shortly after you're bitten, and you can have pretty severe reactions. And with all of the diseases that they carry, if they're not treated properly or within a certain time frame, they can actually become much more severe. So there's a variety of other diseases that do cause flu-like symptoms or just general feeling unwell. So it's really important that if you do feel any of those symptoms, and even if you haven't necessarily been hiking, you've been in your backyard and you know this is a problem, to make sure you get treated as soon as you can.
Wow, and it may sound ignorant, but is the Lone Star tick from Texas?
So it's a southern species. So yeah, that's where it gets its name, and it has basically spread to much more northern states, and we're starting to see more and more cases of it because of those milder winters, and they're not dying off, and there's more suitable habitat for them to survive. So it is definitely a concern. And if I were to suggest one thing, is just make sure that you do check yourself, check your kids, have someone maybe help you with the check to harder to see areas like behind the nape of the neck. And also just pay attention to your pets too, because just like us, they can also have symptoms, and disease can be spread as well to them.
Are there ways, outside of not going into the woods, but like, are there ways of avoiding them, or things that we need to be either wearing or putting on to try to lessen our possibilities of being at risk?
Yeah, there's actually some really easy ways to prevent when you're out. And the easiest way is to wear long sleeve shirts, long pants. Ideally, they're lighter in color because ticks are darker. So if you're wearing light clothes, you'll be able to pick those out easier, especially if they're really tiny. It's also recommended to put your pants into your socks, tuck them in. Doesn't look the greatest when you're out there, but it does actually help keep your skin kind of not exposed to the elements, and they're really searching for any any available skin, and they usually start from the ground up. So if you can protect your feet first, that is the best thing to do. The next best thing is using deterrents or repellents, so things like DEET or picaridin or permethrin, and those are really, really good at deterring those insects, and it's actually recommended to put those on your clothes rather than your skin if you have sensitive skin. But those are really good options as a spray treatment to help if you do spend a lot of time outside.
Are those sprays okay for children?
Yep, as long as you're putting it on clothes. I personally would recommend not putting it directly on the skin. Just make sure that it's completely dry after you spray it before you put it on. They also do sell pre-treated clothing nowadays that have these ingredients kind of into the fabric. So it's a little bit less of a, you don't have to worry about putting it on every day, but definitely something to consider, especially if you're going into more vegetated areas.
That's really interesting, the pre-treated clothing. Okay, well, this has been very interesting, very enlightening. And when is the end of tick season? Like, what is the tick season?
So typically the nymphs, which are the little tiny ones, are most prevalent May through July, so late spring, early summer. But like I said, with the milder seasons happening across the winters, across the country, they actually can be out anytime the temperature is mild. And so as soon as things start to warm up, they're out. And so that season is becoming pretty much the whole year, unless you're getting really sub-zero extreme temperatures that will kill them off. So it is definitely something to think about because that season is getting longer and longer.
Wow. And it overlaps then with like mosquito season. Are we looking at these sprays? Are they like dual?
So typically like insect spray, like general insect spray won't be effective against ticks themselves. But those other sprays, the permethrin and picaridin, they will do a good job at deterring, and they're specifically good against ticks. So you could try both, but the regular bug repellent won't do a thing against ticks. So I would recommend those three for all of those different insects.
Okay, important information to know, and you are very knowledgeable about it. So thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing with us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate the time to share.
Take care. Have a good weekend.
You too. Thank you.
2:13, everyone. Give us 2 minutes, and we're going to work on bringing in our next guest. Okay, it's 2:17 right now, and the man accused of killing Charlie Kirk is before a judge today. I'll tell you that the defense team is trying to get the judge to ban cameras from the courtroom right now, but the prosecution has also said that they intend to seek the death penalty, saying today they intend to seek the death penalty. He should be convicted in the September 10th shooting. They say, of course, you know, we're going to listen in for where we go from here with this case.
Is when we talk about people who work in, you know, attorneys, people involved in the case, like what they should and shouldn't introduce to the public. And one of those things that are key factors to me are extrajudicial statements that the lawyer knows or reasonably should know. Will be disseminated by means of public communications and have a substantial likelihood of materially prejudicing the adjudicative proceeding in the matter. So anything that's particularly prejudicial in nature, you shouldn't be releasing if you know it's going to lead to bias. Examples when we talk about the defendant, I mentioned defendant character evidence is particularly prejudicial. We have character, credibility, reputation, or criminal record. And then tests and things like confessions, admissions, statements given by a defendant. When we talk about tests, it could be DNA, ballistics, things like that. And then opinions as to the guilt or innocence of the defendant. And then anything they know might be admissible. So this is the stuff I look at. You know, are things crossing that line? Because those things are particularly prejudicial. And I think the ABA, a lot of that is driven by the research that tells us that.
Okay. We're on slide 14. What does this show us?
So the reason I point this out is because a lot of the prejudicial content that's come out so far that you see in the media and keeps being reproduced on social media, in television newscasts, is what was initially released in this press conference. So, you know, it was the, I guess the indictment or arrest affidavit, and there's a lot of prejudicial details that are distributed in there where it's, you know, a very long press conference. We're literally reading text messages from the defendant to his roommate, and they're prejudicial. They imply there's some degree of guilt in there, and it's reading it, the whole thing, which is then disseminated, and it gets reproduced on TV and reproduced again and again and again. It appears in social media posts, reels on YouTube, and a host of other places.
And does that reproduction include when the coverage relates to in-court appearances?
It does. So, you know, we'll get to that, but the information that was here keeps getting reproduced in a sensational way on TV. And not only that, like here, he's reading it, but when you see it in the graphics, it shows text message that implies this is the actual text message on a phone that came from the defendant, and it's not. So it's very prejudicial and misleading.
So you say on your slide, this serves as sort of a megaphone and a distributor of certain information. That
Yes, and the
is
interesting-
within the categories you set out.
Yes, and when it's being distributed, just to point out, it's not like it's only distributed on conservative media outlets like Fox. It's on CNN, NBC, all of the networks. So it's widely being distributed to all types of viewers.
And in terms of other sources of this megaphone effect, your next, and by the way, you've got the actual video of the press conference.
Yeah, this is a clip of it.
We're not going to play that
Yeah.
because of time limitations, but it's
Right.
there if the court wants to look at it. Are there other sort of megaphone factors here?
Yeah, so this is a unique factor in this case, in the sense that people who are very influential, obviously the President of the United States, you know, or former Attorney General, these are people that have a lot of influence and power, perceived credibility, and they're making strong prejudicial, inflammatory statements, and I think that's unique. I don't usually see that in cases, and calling for the public execution of the defendant before there's been a trial, you know, things like that are unique in nature.
All right, Your Honor, this is one of the slides I would like the court to see, and it's, as he just indicated, expressing opinions, strong opinions about whether Mr. Robinson should be executed. So the court wants to take it in public, that's fine, but for the record, I'm asking the court not to do that. I do think it's important that the court hear this, just the tone of it and the substance, I think, is very important for the court to consider. Since we are submitting it, the PowerPoint is on the drive, the court could listen to it outside of the public domain, however the court wants to proceed.
So I'll make note of that, and I'm happy to review that in its
Thank you.
entirety.
If we're not going to play, just one thing that's unique about it, if we're not playing it, is
Sure.
there's inflammatory language in there that also creates in-group, out-group identification. When I think,
Could you explain that?
yeah, so it's like a lot of people identify with a political side. Unfortunately, I'm a member of the Democratic Party or Republican Party. I'm liberal. I'm conservative. So I think there's some language in that clip where it mentions, I don't remember the exact phrase, but something about like lunatic leftists or something like that are doing this. So it creates this, the out-group is dangerous, they're lunatics, maniacs, or whatever phrase was used, which creates more of danger, the perception that members of that group, that out-group, are dangerous, and there's a danger there. So that's something that comes up later as well.
And how is that kind of information more or less prejudicial?
Well, it creates, again, in-group, out-group identification, and we think members of the out-group are not like us. They tend to, they're all the same. We attribute stereotypes that of how those people behave. They're more likely to impact how we see them. You're less likely to have empathy for members of the out-group when group salience is high. Versus members of our group we see as individuals, we're complex, less likely to be impacted by stereotypes, more likely to empathize with them, identify with them, things like that.
All right. Now, did you actually take a look at the court appearances that have so far taken place in this case to see what was discussed so that you could compare what was happening in court with what the electronic media was reporting was happening?
In terms of the comparison of what's happening and what's being produced? in
Yes.
media? Yeah, I did look at that.
So the timeline, could you explain this, what you have up here?
Sure. So this is just a timeline of the hearings that have taken place and like high level what they were. So like the initial WebEx appearance, pretty brief, and you would think that's a pretty neutral, not very significant hearing, and you would expect if you're looking at the media, it should be neutral. It shouldn't be highly prejudicial, inflammatory, since very little happened there, right? Mm-hmm. And the same thing when you have like the waiver hearing, appointment of counsel. There's not a lot of fireworks. It's not the preliminary hearing. No evidence is being laid out or anything like that. So you would expect the media not to be introducing prejudicial content, given the nature of those particular hearings.
If they were serving an educational function.
If they were educational, transparent, a summary of what occurred, these are very procedural, technical things. They're not necessarily sensational in any way.
So did you take a look at the first hearing, the initial WebEx appearance by Mr. Robinson?
Right. So this is a brief, short hearing. Where, I think he appeared on WebEx, right? And then I looked primarily at what did that elicit? What was the reaction to the media? Was it kind of just summarizing this is what happened, or was it more sensational in nature?
Okay, so let's take a look at the clip. And this is from NBC News.
You have been watching that court
on
hearing
that date,
for
correct?
the man suspected of shooting and killing Charlie Kirk last week on a campus in Utah. You saw this.
Okay, I actually think they were starting to play some of the coverage from what they're arguing again is that there shouldn't be any cameras in the courtroom there for this trial for Tyler Robinson, the man who just turned 23 this week, actually yesterday, who was accused of shooting and killing conservative activist Charlie Kirk. And I believe they were starting to play some of the coverage because what they're trying to argue, and they, meaning the defense, what they're trying to argue is that the media coverage that comes from cameras being in the courtroom then create a level of bias for the jury as they will ultimately have to make a decision about his life. And as life is on the table, the prosecutors in this case want the death penalty for Tyler Robinson, again, for the shooting of Charlie Kirk. So they're presenting some evidence of some of the media coverage that happened in the days and weeks following the shooting. Obviously, it was a huge event that people watched. It was widely covered. There was a lot of interest in it for many different reasons. And so getting an unbiased jury is of the top priority for, really, it should be for both sides here in wanting a fair trial so that they can make sure they get the best outcome for everyone involved here. But again, the defense team arguing that the cameras should not be allowed in the courtroom and looking over some of the coverage that happened in the days and weeks following the murder, assassination of Charlie Kirk.
All right, let's try that.
There we go.
There we go. Okay, let me escape. Slide. Okay,
Did you skip the previous,
okay, let me go back.
19? There you go.
There we go. So is this, as you indicate on the slide here, this is ABC's coverage of the September 16th, 2025 WebEx appearance?
Yes.
And in this clip, are you picking up the coverage right after the court says we're in recess?
Yes.
Okay. No, it's not. Getting no audio at all.
Want to try a different laptop?
I'm sorry.
I recommend rebooting the laptop.
Okay. And, apologies to the court. Thought we had this set up. Let's do
Okay, court cases similar to live TV. You never know when things, technological issues will come up that kind of prevent things from moving forward. So they are working on getting their stream going so that they can actually show some of the film, some of the coverage that I was alluding to there, that they have been going back and forth over as they talk about what could create bias in the case. As they are working on that, Illinois Senator Dick Durbin is in Elgin right now, speaking on behalf of Children's Health. Let's listen into this press conference.
Esquivel. Also, just wanted to thank Senator Durbin for coming out today and for really listening to us tell our story about what happens at the local level and what happens at the family level when you're low income and when you may be experiencing other challenges, especially when you're just starting your new family or starting off on life. Well Child Center is the largest WIC program in northern Kane County. We have over 6,000 clients that participate in our WIC program. We also own and operate a pediatric dental clinic. It's Medicaid only, and we see about 5,200 patient visits per year in our small but mighty dental clinic. In addition to that, we focus a lot on food insecurity with the families that we serve. So we offer a pantry for families with children ages 18 and younger to come and shop while they're here at Well Child Center for other visits. I would be remiss not to say that the other tenants and the other organizations that lease space from us in this building are also nonprofit child and family serving organizations. So many times families come to Well Child Center as a one-stop shop for everything they might need to ensure that their family is off to the right start and thriving.
Thanks, Michelle. The other point I want to make is the president submitted his budget for the next fiscal year. Every single program that is offered here to low-income families is cut. Cuts that unfortunately would mean less quality food and less quality treatment when it comes to medical and dental care. How can that be good for these families? It's not. We overcame the president's budget last year with a bipartisan appropriation bill, which I was happy to vote for as a member of the committee. The same challenge faces us for the next year. We have got to make sure these programs are adequately funded. When we talk about the priorities in America, there's no greater priority as far as I'm concerned than healthy families and children. Okay? Thanks.
Good?
Got what you need?
I think so.
Okay, good.
Great, thank you.
All right, so we just caught the tail end of that press conference there as Senator Durbin is at the Well Child Center. It's a medical center in Elgin, a nonprofit organization that provides health and human services to low-income and uninsured children and families. They focus on nutrition, dental health, family support. You could hear the director there saying that they have the largest WIC program in northern Kane County, serving more than 6,000 families there. And so when she talked about food insecurity, she said they operate a pantry. When she talked about the dental program, she talked about, what they are doing to address that as well. And Senator Durbin followed up by saying that right now, every single program that they provide, again, the largest WIC program in northern Kane County, every program that they provide has had their funding cut. And so he is advocating to make sure that they are fully funded right now. Some of their key services in their WIC programs, again, a pediatric dental care program for children up to the age of 21. So young children all the way up to young adults, a breastfeeding support that they provide, behavioral health services, but their mission just overall to fight barriers in terms of equity to health outcomes and family well-being through education, counseling, and also community partnerships. So again, this was the Well Child Center in Elgin, where Senator Dick Durbin was today advocating for those programs that form the largest WIC program in northern Kane County to be fully funded. He says that he will continue to fight for that, but also kind of alluding to the fact that he is on his way out of office, and that this is a long-term fight that will need to continue to be fought, in his opinion, going into the years after he is out of office, whoever should succeed him in office. So again, they're advocating on behalf of children's health at the place where so many low-income and uninsured children and families seek help for the many different issues in terms of health equity that they might face in Kane County. We, again, only heard the tail end of that, but glad that we were able to get a bit of that in. It is 2:36 right now, so give us 2 minutes and then we'll regroup and see where we're going from here. Welcome back, everyone. It's 2:40 right now. I'm waiting on a couple of my colleagues that are going to be contributing to our coverage here on Chicago Live when it comes to a few different things that we're following today. But until we get them into the chat, let's talk about what President Trump is up to today. As you can see here, Air Force One is on the tarmac or on the runway. I know a lot of folks who love planes don't like to say tarmac, but it is on the runway here. And the president has had, as usual, a very busy day of events, kind of pointing to this evening. He's going to be delivering remarks at an event in Phoenix with Turning Point Action. That is the advocacy arm of the conservative political group Turning Point USA, founded by Charlie Kirk. What were we just watching moments ago? We were watching the court proceedings for Tyler Robinson, the man accused of assassinating Charlie Kirk. President Trump, of course, he has already been at a round table in Las Vegas highlighting tax breaks, especially for tipped workers. He's really trying to appeal, to people about the economy as we get ready for the midterm elections. Many states already in primaries, of course, but the big deal will be in November. That's what we're leading up to here. So again, he's going to be speaking at this Turning Point Action event later on tonight. And like I said, we were watching just a few moments ago the trial or the evidentiary hearing for Tyler Robinson, the 23-year-old man who is accused of murdering Charlie Kirk. He is charged with one count of aggravated murder with the victim targeting enhancement, alongside several other felony charges as well. And of course, we know that President Trump thought very highly of Charlie Kirk, actually credited him in large part for being reelected. And so there has been a lot of attention to that particular trial. And so the organization that Charlie Kirk founded, that is where the event that they are having tonight is where the president will be at the end of this evening. Meanwhile, Tyler Robinson is facing capital punishment in that case. Again, the prosecutors calling for the death penalty. The Utah County Attorney's Office filing the notice of intent to seek the death penalty now in that particular case. And the defense team arguing today that this has become a bit of a media tour. Again, you've got someone who is connected to the president, who is assassinated in a very public way, and so the defense team has filed a motion to hold the state in contempt, alleging that they violated a gag order by going on a media tour following a previous motion filed by the defense. So there's a lot of back and forth here, again, for a very high-profile trial, and of course it is in large part high profile because of the connection that Charlie Kirk had to President Trump. It's 2:43 right now. Our meteorologist Mark Strell just walked in. Give us a couple of minutes and then we're going to bring him in so that we can talk a little bit about the weather that we are anticipating in the hours to come here in the state of Illinois and beyond. All right, welcome back, everyone. 2:46 right now. Mark Strell is here to get us in the know with what's happening in the hours to come in terms of our weather.
Yeah, we've got a lot going. It's been a busy week, hasn't it? A lot going on, and we have another round of strong showers and thunderstorms coming up over the weekend. Well, actually tonight, and then over the weekend it gets cold. There's a chance of some frost coming our way.
Oh, my goodness.
All right, let's call up and show you some pictures here, first of all. Let's show you, first of all, where what's going on here locally. And you can see things are pretty quiet across Chicago. That red box is a tornado watch box. That is up for McHenry, DeKalb, and parts of LaSalle County. That is in effect until 8 o'clock this evening. But close to home, along the lakefront, across Chicago, this is what we're looking at. Just some clouds mixed with sunshine. There is a severe weather threat. This is the severe weather threat matrix. And you can see that orange level. That is a 3 on a 5 scale. That's fairly high up the scale, if you will. And there's even a higher point down Kansas City, down towards Wichita. That is the bullseye. But we certainly have our threat for severe weather here today. So let me go through and outline it. There is a risk for tornadoes. The greatest risk is western, northwestern Illinois, but you can see there's still a threat for some tornadoes, especially out through our western suburbs. Now, stronger tornadoes most likely out again right there across western Illinois. That's where the severe hail risk as well. We have all threats on the table. Hail could be an issue for us, but the greatest risk with the greatest size out to the west and to the northwest. So there's a lot going on here today. Radar right now showing some strong showers and thunderstorms up to our north and northwest, but so far not much developing here. That's wind. That's the wind risk, and I think we will all see some gusty winds as that line of showers and thunderstorms comes through. But so far, all of the severe weather and all of the strong showers and thunderstorms have remained in Iowa and northwestern Illinois, but we will be keeping a sharp eye on this as we go throughout the rest of the afternoon and the evening.
We have had just such a pristine day thus far.
Right?
What is the timeline like for everything to kind of start to change?
Could be a couple of different lines of showers through. We were looking for one line to come through late this afternoon, kind of dinner time, right after dinner time, as early as 5 or 6 through the western suburbs. So far that has not developed. So we'll expect to see probably after 5, 6, a line of showers and thunderstorms develop out to the far western suburbs and the 7 to 8 category through the western suburbs, say the Fox Valley, and then 9, 10, 11 through the city, but we'll hope that those storms continue to weaken as they advance towards Chicago.
Okay, and you said that the next thing coming after that is
cold air.
Weather.
Yeah, we've got some cold stuff with the threat of some frost Sunday night.
Wild
Welcome
ride.
to Chicago. Yeah,
I'm hearing
boo is
boos
right.
in the studio.
The gardeners are all booing.
Yeah, I mean, if people have already planted their spring plants, their flowers.
There could be a risk in some spots.
Sorry. We appreciate you coming up to get us up to date. We know that you're getting ready for the 4 o'clock news. We'll be watching very closely. He will be letting you know throughout the evening how things are progressing.
Very much so.
Is there a chance that maybe the second line of storms could dissipate?
I don't think we'll dissipate, but we will hope at least that they'll weaken.
Okay.
So they come through with garden variety storms. We also have a flood watch because the ground's already saturated, so more flooding rains overnight tonight could cause a problem in that regard too.
Okay, let's take one more live look outside here, everybody. Enjoy this moment while you have it, because it's just been beautiful outside today. All those folks out there at the Bean getting in their pictures, this is the time to do it before you have to make your way inside, and for the weekend you have to put on a coat for that as well. Listen, of course, in the springtime we think about a lot of things. You think about obviously the possibilities of severe weather or kind of crazy weather in our area, but we also think about what's next for our NFL teams. Next week is the draft.
Oh, yeah.
Can you believe it?
So exciting. I feel like this offseason's been a little bit weird for the Bears because they don't have a top 10 pick. So you're going to owners meetings, you're going to the combine, and it's not so much like what are the Bears going to do with the 25th overall pick. It's like how much their narrative has changed over the last year now. nationally with Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams. So they picked 25 in the draft next Thursday, late in the round, and there's a million different directions they could go. You look at this roster, and there's still a lot of holes on it. I think everyone's pointing to the defensive line. You could also go safety. You could go left tackle. So a lot of options for the Bears, who are going to have to decide how they're going to prioritize the importance of those positions.
Now, you know, we just watched the WNBA draft, and let's say for like Flaugier, you hear, oh, she's going one place, and then within minutes she's traded to another place. How often does that happen? Could we watch somebody go in the first 1 through 24, and then maybe there's some magic that happens that gets them to us?
A lot of the national insiders are saying that it could be a trade-heavy draft, more so trading draft picks rather than players. The one thing that everyone's going to be looking out for is the status of Giants defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence. He has requested a trade out of New York. They are at an impasse, according to reports, on trying to get a new contract done. And so if he were to be traded, likely it could happen before the draft. That way the Giants get draft capital in return. So that would be a player that I think you might see ahead of the draft. A lot of people are wondering if the Bears might be in that talk, and I think they're probably making calls. The problem with Dexter Lawrence, he's at a position of need in the interior defensive line for the Bears. He is a game wrecker up the middle of the defense. He can stop the run as well, which we know the Bears struggled with last year. It's the contract that they are having to take on and the cap hit, and then the extension that he is expecting from wherever he goes. And so the Bears are really tied up against the cap right now. They have like $220,000 in cap space. That's really towards the bottom of the league. His cap hit would be $26 million. The reason why they traded DJ Moore was because his cap hit was going to be $26 million. And so they would have to restructure some contracts to free up some space. Then they would have to sign an extension. And then you're kind of looking at what they want to accomplish next offseason, which would be your main priority of extending Caleb Williams, hopefully extending Roma Dunze, and a lot of other young players that are homegrown talent, rewarding them for what they've done for this team. And so I don't know that the Bears are going to be in play for that. I think it's exciting to talk about, but I think they're more draft and develop.
Okay, talk a little bit about how you all will be covering the draft.
So I love draft night, especially. It's so different this year because it's not they have a top 10 pick. It's like you could argue so many different positions. So we have a draft special Thursday night on Fox Chicago from 6 to 7. I'll be in studio alongside our analyst, Anthony Herron. Tina Nguyen is going to be up at Hallis Hall, which is draft headquarters. And then I think Brett Bugansky is going to be out at Soldier Field with the party with the fans. So yeah, it's going to be fun. And Big Ant does a lot of breakdowns of these prospects. He's so in the know of just their college tape and how that's going to translate to the NFL. Hoping to get Jeff Joniak, radio voice of the Bears, on the show, and it's an exciting night leading up to it. Then we'll head up to Hallis Hall. You kind of have to wait your turn. Their pick probably won't be in by sports at 9 o'clock. And so there's going to be plenty of movement around the league ahead of that. And then we hang out there literally until they make the pick and the first round ends to hear from Ryan Poles about why they made the decision that they did. And so it's a late night. It's an exciting night. And then you turn around Friday and they fly the draft pick in. You get to meet them for the first time. And then they have picks in the day 2 as well. They have 4 picks in the top 90. So they can definitely find some starters in the mid rounds as well.
Okay, last question here. And that is, outside of the Bears, what are you anticipating in these first, let's say 10 picks? What do you think is going to be going on?
Well, we know that Fernando Mendoza is going to go number 1 overall to Vegas. Bailey out of Texas Tech, Arvell Reese. Those are 2 other defensive players that are probably going to go in the top 3, 2 or 3. One could debate. I think Jeremiah Love, who is the running back from Notre Dame, is kind of the one where everyone's like, taking a running back in the top 5 is just historically something you wouldn't really do. A lot of mock drafts have him going to Tennessee, who has a young quarterback in Cam Ward. But there's some arguments that Tennessee needs a lot of other positions too. And so Jeremiah Love, does he go 4th overall or does he drop a little bit? And then it's going to be figuring out where all the runs come of these different position groups. We know it's a deep edge class and the Bears could use an edge rusher. When does the run start? And if they are looking to trade up or they feel like they could trade back, when do they decide to do that? The Cowboys are interesting. They have 2 first-round picks, 12 and 20. They could be be trading up and getting a really a game wrecker on their defense, which would be a huge impact player for them.
Well, yeah, because they kind of traded one away.
Yeah, they need one. They definitely need one. A replacement for Micah Parsons might be nice. Well, remember, Matt Eberflus coached that defense last year too, former Bears head coach. But yeah, they have Dak Prescott. They got weapons on offense. Can they load up their defense too?
Okay, Cassie Carlson, we appreciate
Thanks,
you.
Anita.
I think we're getting you out of here on time. Thank you.
I know. I give them a strict out time.
She did. 2 minutes, everybody, and we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. 2:58 right now. Lawrence Gaffiti is here, and you have been on this story that has a local man living in Ecuador, and what's taken place there?
Yeah, Anita, this is one that I've been following for a couple of days now. Ever since I saw the GoFundMe go out, I've been trying to get in touch with the family, and I finally was able to talk to the brother of this man who was missing in Ecuador. So his name is Greg Krupa. Just a little bit of an update and a background on him. His family's from Forest Park. He went to Fenwick High School. Greg was only 39 years old. He was living in Ecuador. He's been there for quite a while now, more than a decade that he's been in Ecuador. And he is an explorer. He loves to be outside and explore nature and do all of that stuff outdoors. So Greg is just described as this larger than life, amazing, incredible kind of guy. His brother just had the best things to say about him. And Greg went missing. He was in a park in Quito in Ecuador where he was all the time. He would go camping over there, he'd go hiking. If people came to visit, he would bring them all over there. So this was a place that he was frequently at, a place that, he brought other people to, a place that he just loved. It was so clear how much he loved being here. But anyway, so he went missing, and so everybody started looking for him. It was very clear that he had a lot of people in his corner. His brother lives in Ecuador as well, so his brother said, I couldn't go anywhere without people asking me, what's going on with Greg? How's Greg doing? So he just had so many people who loved him, and that community turned into a search party for him. I just got the chills saying that, but people just wanted to help find him. So of course they had police and everyone out there. They had canines. They had people climbing because it's a forest. So they eventually found his water bottle, and then they ended up finding his body. So they searched for him for 4 days before they found him. And the family is of course just devastated,
Yeah.
Anita. It was so heartbreaking to hear them talk about him.
And do they think anything nefarious happened to him?
Nope, just an absolute accident. They think that he was just climbing and something happened and he fell. So really just kind of like a freak accident kind of thing. So they said that, they want to live like Greg. They want to live and see the purpose in every single day. And he just had such a passion for life, and Anita such a passion for helping other people. So he worked in kind of like the social impact kind of area. And so he was helping people who needed prosthetics get prosthetics. He was helping people in underserved communities get dental care that they needed. So this guy, not only was he the life of the party, it sounds like, but he was such a lifeline for other people who needed help.
Yeah.
And so it's just really, really a sad story. But when you watch today at 4 and 5 o'clock, I'm really excited to bring you guys this interview, because hearing Dave, Greg's brother, talk about his brother Greg, I mean, you can just tell how much they love him.
Yeah. Just a couple more questions for you before I know you've got to get ready for the 4 o'clock. Why did he initially go to Ecuador? What was it, just the zest for life, or was there like a job that he was going there to do specifically? Why did he go to Ecuador?
Yeah, so his older brother David, who I spoke to on Zoom today, was the one to kind of lead the charge and move out of the country. They're Chicago kids at heart, but they were in Guatemala for some time, and they moved to a couple other places in that area just to help other people. That was the whole point, was to help other people. That was what he loved to do.
Wow. And so have the rest of his family members gone there, or was the GoFundMe so that they could bring his body back?
That's a great point. So yeah, the next steps are, how do we celebrate him? How do we show him how much he was loved? So they want to have a big party in Ecuador. So they're trying to get everybody from Chicago to go to Ecuador. So that's why the GoFundMe was started, to kind of get that process going, because he was a party. So they said that's the only way that we can celebrate him and show him how much we loved him, is to have a big old time. He said there's going to be music and lots of people, just like Greg would have wanted. So they're going to do it the right way.
Well, I'm so glad they, at the very least, got closure. When there's a missing person, there's a lot of people who are just wondering what could have transpired. So at least they're getting some answers that some families are still waiting for, albeit not what they wanted at the end of this road, but hopefully they will get the opportunity at least to celebrate his life.
Absolutely. And I do want to share just one more thing that his brother said, because this really just gave me chills throughout my whole body. I had tears welled up in my eyes for all 23 minutes of this interview. I actually do believe we're going to put this interview on our website in full, because it really just was so powerful. But he said the way Greg left this earth pales in comparison to the impact that he had on earth while he was here. So, like I said, just great guy, I think, that we're talking about here.
Yeah, I can't wait to see your story when it's all put together. Thank you for going out and speaking to his family. I know they're going through a lot, but at the same time, they're teaching a lot of people about, making the most of this type of moment, for sure.
They were proud to share his story, even through all of the trauma. So thanks for letting me come on and share it, and hopefully you guys will see it at 4 and 5 o'clock tonight.
Happy to have you here. Thanks. All right, everyone, give us 2 minutes and we'll be back. Our next guest is already on the line, and we have quite the story to share about a missing Hulk Hogan figure.
Oh, you got my interest,
girl.
We're
going to give you the details after this quick break. Welcome back, everyone. 3:06 right now, and we are in our last hour here of Chicago Live for the week. Still some pretty great conversations to come. We're going to, oh my goodness, we're going to share the story. A woman is going to share her story about how an Apple Watch helped to alert her to a very serious situation that was happening within her body. And I think it is a story that everyone should hear. A lot of times we just think like, oh, I'm going to just, put this on. And like when I go for a run, I'll be able to time it, or small things like that. But you really don't think about the life-saving possibilities that could come from these devices as well. So I'm looking forward to her story, especially as we get ready for the Heart Ball tonight. Our station is proud to be a sponsor of the American Heart Association's Heart Ball this evening. And so as we get ready to raise funds and raise awareness about heart disease and stroke, this is a perfectly timed story to share with everyone, something that we can all take from it, I'm sure. That should be around 3:45 or so. We're going to get an update from the Archdiocese of Chicago. We were telling you kind of about the back and forth between the Archdiocese and CPS. We gave you a huge update right before we got off the air yesterday, and now we're hearing the Archdiocese reaction to the resolution that's now happened with some of the services for students with disabilities being restored. We look forward to that conversation, as well as one about Geneva dog poisoned. Got to get more information on that particular situation there that's come about. We're going to get that from Kane County State's Attorney Jamie Moser momentarily, but so many people have been interested in this story about a Hulk Hogan figure outside of a beloved restaurant that disappeared for a while and then came back strong. Let's go ahead and bring in Lynette Newell. She is the manager and co-owner of Shoop's Burgers Highland. Thank you so much for your time.
Hello, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. And when you say us, I see there are several figures behind you. And The Rock is not alone. He's got the Hulk with him.
That is correct. Together again.
Okay, so tell me what happened.
Okay, last Thursday I came into work. These have been our greeters for the past 3 years, and I noticed that the Hulk Hogan figure was gone. And I immediately went on high alert, asking all of our employees, where did he go? He did not just walk out on his own. Nobody knew, and we could not figure out when he disappeared. So we put it on Facebook that if anyone had any information. A couple of customers came in and said, oh, we saw him on Wednesday afternoon, but we didn't see him Wednesday night. So we were able to narrow it down, look through our camera footage, and found some evidence, which we then turned over to the police, and also put a post on Facebook asking if anyone has seen this person. And through an anonymous tip from a real American hero, as Hulk would say, we narrowed it down and gave that to the police, and they were able to go to this person and ask them, here's your choice. Give it back, or you want to get cuffed and go to the clinker. So she made the right choice. She brought it back. They're reunited. But in the meantime, we had someone from Kansas named Sam who reached out to us because he knew that we were sad. And he had a pristine Hulk Hogan figure at his house that he wanted to donate. And we were just amazed at his generosity.
Oh my goodness. What a stunning turn of events there. I want to kind of take little pieces of that here. So first and foremost, it was a woman.
It was a granny.
What?
I did not want 50,000 Hulkamaniacs going wild on Granny, but if you go to our Facebook page and read some of these comments, there are over 250,000 people saw this. It is bananas. It went bananas. So the memes, the comments, we did not want to put Granny in the clinker, trust me. We just wanted them reunited. So actually the reason we got them in the first place is that we do a fundraiser. We do several fundraisers for our community, but one of the big ones we have is for Camp Millhouse, which is a camp for kids with special needs. It's an overnight camp in South Bend. I want to spread the word. If anyone needs camp, this is a wonderful opportunity. If anyone wants to work as a counselor, they have just a great camp. So I knew that we were having a fundraiser, and I saw these on Facebook Marketplace like 4 years ago. So I brought them in, and the kids had just a blast taking pictures, posing them. So I was very excited, and then they became a part of our greeting crew by the front door. So I really was devastated on Thursday when I noticed it was gone, because on April 23rd, which is coming up, we're having another fundraiser for Camp Millhouse. So I am so glad he's back.
Oh my goodness. Well, the fundraiser should really be incredible now that everyone's focused on this right now. I mean, you raised awareness right in time too. So when you say a granny, I mean, do we know how old this woman is?
I do not. Do you guys have an estimate? 80?
Okay.
Okay, and I'm going to say that the first thing I thought was, if she's got dementia, this is the last thing I wanted to do. But she didn't. She denied it, she denied it, she denied it to the police till they showed her the footage. And then, she took them to her house, and they brought Hulk back in the squad car, so... She was
They brought him back in the squad car. I'm sure that was a sight to see, just like the video of her taking him. So did she offer an explanation as to why she took him after she finally, like you're caught candid?
I don't think she did, but there is a rumor from some anonymous sources that her son is a wrestling memorabilia collector, but that's alleged, so I'm not sure. We have had so many people though ask if they could buy the statues or the figurines, and they really are a pair. It's just fun to have them here as our greeting crew. So we did not want to sell them, and I don't know if that's what made her want to take it, but it definitely did not say free. So
what are your thoughts on this whole situation?
Well, I'm really glad to just have a lighthearted, fun story for the news. I am telling you, there's so much bad in the world. This story, like I said, it has gone incredibly crazy, and people from Canada, the United Kingdom have seen it. Like I said, Sam from Kansas, how generous and kind that he was. I even offered to send it back after we found out that the original was going to be returned. I wanted to send him merchandise or hamburgers, money, and he said no. He just saw this post on the pro wrestling Facebook page, and he's just happy to be a part of it. So we are thrilled that our community, our customers, and obviously we have the best hamburgers we have for the past 30 years. So we invite everybody to come on in, try a burger, take a picture with the Hulk, post it on our page, and just have some fun.
Leave with a full belly, but not full hands. No more taking the Hulk.
That's right. Happy hands, happy heart, happy tummy, right?
Okay.
We did have some help wanted pictures. Reward. There was a reward for the capture. We have a reward for the anonymous tipster. So, good things can happen when y'all pitch in.
A great story about community effort in the end here. Now, what do you think Hulk Hogan would say about this situation?
Oh, they told me not to impersonate him, but he would have said, "Oh, brother, don't send 50,000 Hulkamaniacs for Granny." I don't know. I think he would say this is crazy, but you know what? It's an American story, isn't it? It's just a small town diner. We've been in business for over 40 years here. The brand has been around since 1948. We have over 10 locations. So we would love for people to come in and try a burger and have some fun. We encourage family, community. We do fundraisers. I want all the wrestlers to come.
Well, certainly a lot of people have learned about you that didn't know about you before, so I think you will get some new foot traffic in there.
I hope so.
All right. Wonderful catching up with you, especially now that we can see for our own eyes that the Hulk is back home. You have a wonderful
Reunited.
weekend.
All right. Thank you so much. And thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Take care. Everyone, give us 2 minutes, and then we're going to get into our next discussion with the Kane County State's Attorney. Okay, welcome back, everyone. It's 3:19 right now. Before we get to our next discussion, I just want to pass along a little breaking news that we just got in from our political reporter, Paris Schutz, that longtime Illinois State House politician Barbara Flynn Curry has died. She served as House Democratic leader for 20 years, second in command under former House Speaker Mike Madigan, first woman to ever hold the position, longtime representative from the South Side communities of Hyde Park, Woodlawn, and parts of the South Shore and Kenwood. And again, we just got that information in moments ago that Barbara Flynn Curry has passed away. So we will be working on getting more information, speaking to people who knew her well for our evening newscast. But I wanted to pass that along to you because it just came into us. It's 3:20 now, and let's get more information about a situation out of Geneva. A man there that's been accused of poisoning his neighbor's dogs because of their barking. We have Kane County State's Attorney Jamie Mosser, who is back with us here on the show. We always appreciate you making time for us.
Thank you for having me back. It's always a pleasure.
I wish it was under better circumstances, because I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, what would make someone do this?
I don't even think there's a rational answer to give to that. There is no reason to ever harm an animal, let alone poison a dog.
This is this is pretty far out there. So the allegation here is that the man was giving rat poisoning to the dog. Is that correct?
Yes, and mixing it with chocolate to make it into a patty and then placing it into the yard where the dogs were.
Did these neighbors have an ongoing feud?
Not that we know of. They were aware that the person wasn't the biggest fan of the dogs because of the barking, but there was not a lot of antagonism between the neighbors prior to this having occurred.
Oh my goodness. Now, I think the best part of this is that the dog was treated and survived, but what kind of charges does this man face?
Well, so now this is aggravated cruelty to an animal along with criminal damage to property, because unfortunately pets are still considered property. These are all felony offenses that he's facing as a result of it.
Mm-hmm. And so what kind of time could he be looking at for this?
So without it really having a criminal history, I can't really say that this is an individual who would go to prison, because this is something that our court system always tends to go towards probation versus anything. But he could serve prison time as a result of it, because they are significant felonies. And because what we're finding out now is that this dog may have some long-term consequences, including continued seizures as a result of consuming this poison.
Oh, goodness grief. Now, these two hadn't even been neighbors for that long.
No, he had moved from another state. He was recently a resident of Geneva, so it was not a long amount of time that he lived there before this happened.
This is pretty wild. And there were some other things found in his home that were concerning under the circumstances, let's say that.
Yes, so he was also found with weapons within his home. He does not have a valid FOID card, which is necessary here in Illinois. In the state that it came from, it wouldn't have been necessary, but when you move here and you develop permanent residency, you obviously have to follow the laws of Illinois in regards to gun ownership.
And when you say that the person had not had any prior record, the guy used to be an attorney.
Well, that's an indictment on attorneys right there, but but he should know better, obviously. I mean, we go to law school, we learn this, we're supposed to be compliant with the law, so it's even worse that this is an individual who knows what the laws are and also knows ignorance of the laws and defense for anything. So there's no reason to have done what he did, given the fact that the annoyance was with barking.
Oh my goodness. Okay, just a few more things here. Because this is a wild escalation from being frustrated because of your neighbor's barking dog. I was talking to someone just earlier today. I was like, oh, I woke up super early, and they said, did you wake up to barking dogs? Because I did. And I just would not even have the thought in my mind that this would be the solution for someone for barking dogs. But let me ask you this. So he just goes back to living next door to this guy?
No, not in this case. So he was released by the judge, but the judge ordered that he cannot go within 500 feet of where this residence is. So he couldn't go back to his home because of that. So he, according to what was stated in court, is going to live with one of his family members here, I believe in Kane County.
Mm-hmm. And has he, Mr. Pierce, has he offered up any type of attrition for this? I mean, has he seemed sorrowful for what he did?
No, the investigation revealed that he said he was putting this out to deal with a rat problem on his own property. However, these chocolate patties that were being made were in the property of the neighbor, and there wasn't anything that was around his property. The Geneva Police Department, specifically Detective Hahn, did a very thorough investigation, including looking at the property of this individual to see if there's any type of evidence that there's even rats there, and talking to neighbors to see if they're facing a rat problem, and nothing was found. So that goes against what he's saying, that he put those out for issues with rats instead of intentionally throwing that into the neighbor's yard to harm these pets.
So you're saying the attorney had an issue with his alibi.
Definitely is not doing really well representing himself on that.
Oh my goodness. I mean, give me an idea of the area where they live. Is it a rural area? Are these homes close in proximity?
They are. It's like a regular suburban area where it's one house right by each other, separated by fences. So it would be a really easy thing to be in your yard and just toss this over into the other person's yard. And it was close to like where the fence line is on the other side.
Mm-hmm. So were you shocked when this came to your desk, or confused, or what was going through your mind when you saw this?
All of those things, because of the tragedies that we see throughout our community. You're attacking vulnerable pets. You're attacking pets who, of course dogs are going to bark. your answer is not poisoning them. Your answer is trying to talk to the neighbors to see what you could do to mitigate what's happening. So I was shocked. I was horrified. You know, that's not what we want to see in our community ever.
And then my thought too would be, okay, if the dog didn't pick it up, I mean, did these people have children that could have picked this up, or what else could have gotten a hold of that? And you really had an even bigger issue on your hands.
Absolutely. And I don't know whether or not they had children, but anybody could have been in the yard, or another animal could have taken it from that yard and brought it to another yard where there were children. I mean, this is not a safe thing to do in general. It's not a smart thing to do. And it's certainly something that no person, especially a lawyer, should have engaged in to harm an animal for what is a minor issue in life.
Yeah. How, I mean, I'm not asking for an exact number, but how many cases of animal cruelty would you say come across your desk for prosecution?
So we have probably a couple dozen every year, and it usually deals with people who are leaving their pets outside in bad weather, people who are not either properly treating their pets, abusive pets. So we see it more often than not. And we're pretty aggressive in Kane County about making sure to charge those cases, especially in incidents of hoarding, where you see the environment that the pets are living in, and you have, you know, sometimes dozens of pets in this home living in squalor.
Yeah. And then how many times do you see a neighbor dispute rise to the level of criminal charges?
Not in terms of poisoning pets. I mean, we do have a lot of neighbor disputes where there's a lot of harassment that's going back and forth, but not where the animals are typically targeted.
Well, there's some good to that, but still.
Yes.
Thank you for coming on to explain what was going on with this situation. It seemed pretty far out there, but at the same time, I mean, when you really hear the details, it just seems like someone thought maybe they had the answers that you wouldn't be able to piece together.
Right. I love how you said that.
Have a great weekend. Thank you so much as always.
Thank you. You too.
Okay. Take care.
Bye.
Everyone, it's 3:29. We're going to take a quick 2-minute break. We are anticipating a conversation about the Archdiocese of Chicago and the restoration of special education instructional services coming up next. Welcome back, everyone. It's 3:31 right now. Let me walk you through the story that we have been following about the Archdiocese of Chicago. Friday, if you were with us last Friday, 1 week from today, we spoke with a representative from the Archdiocese of Chicago about what they called an abrupt ending by CPS of services for Catholic school students who qualify under the U.S. Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA. That's what IDEA means. So about 800 students, or a little bit more than that, qualify under the IDEA Act. And this was a federally funded instructional support program that was going away. So they were asking, okay, if the federal government gives it to CPS, what happened to the funds? How are you telling us that it's going away? But yesterday, we got another statement from the Archdiocese to say we are delighted to announce that Chicago Public Schools will be restoring the special education instructional services to these students. And now we're hearing from some of the parents about what has gone on over the last week here. We have Tamika Pass, who is a parent of a student at Leo Catholic School. Thank you so much for being here on the show with me today. I think you're muted, and I definitely want to hear what you have to say.
About that.
It's okay, and I'm going to ask you to
Thank you for having me today.
One more thing. Just turn your camera horizontally.
Is that better?
Nope. Let's see. Okay, all right, we'll just leave it. We'll leave it. Let me ask you just how you are feeling about what's gone on. Walk me back. You know, I kind of walk people forward, but your overall feeling over this.
I was actually quite surprised that that happened. My son has been in Title I since 3rd grade. So I was surprised that they were stopping the services going to, and he's been in private, he's never been in public school. So, and it's a great program. I didn't understand why they were stopping it and what was going on with that situation at that moment.
Mm-hmm. Tell me how impactful the program has been for your son.
Oh, it's been great for him. Before he was in Title I, he was very shy and thought that he didn't understand things sometimes. With the Title I, it allows him to understand. He learns a little different, and it gives him that one-on-one help that he needs to understand different things that he may not understand in class with the other kids in the classroom.
Mm-hmm. So your thoughts when you found out that the funding could be going away, what did you think would happen for your son?
My next thought was, I guess I'll have to find a tutor outside of what he currently does.
Mm-hmm. Because the tutor would then kind of help him to catch up with things and to really stay on top of things.
Right. It would really help him. I thought about it, but if I had to get a tutor, that would affect his things he do outside of school. Because then we would have to he currently is part of Leo's choir, and they're busy, and it gives him something to do. So if he had to get a tutor, then it would have took away from him participating in the outside curriculum. Mm-hmm. Extracurricular activities.
So he's a part of Leo's award-winning choir that we love to hear from so much, and we hail so much. We're so proud of, and yet this is one of those things where the federal government and the local government, that there's real lives, which is why we have you here, that are kind of in the balance when there's a back and forth between the two.
Right.
So let me ask you, when you found out that the services would be restored, how did you find out, and what was your initial thought on that?
I found out through the news first, and I was like, oh, good. And not even 30 minutes later, I got an email from the school letting me know that the services have been restored for the rest of the school year.
Mm-hmm.
And I was glad to hear that. I'm just hoping that we can continue it on to the next school year also.
Mm-hmm, because that becomes the next question. I mean, they said it will at least go through the end of this school year, but there's no certainty, I guess, at this point in time as to whether it'll be picked back up. Is that your understanding?
Yes, at this moment, yes.
Mm-hmm. And so what grade is your son in?
He's a freshman.
Okay. And what are the subjects that IDEA has helped him out with the most?
Math.
Mm-hmm.
Math is his wheelhouse. So he struggles with math, and going from elementary school to high school, it's a big change. So it's really been helping him adjust in ways.
Sure. Did he comprehend what was going on, that services were going to be yanked, or was this one of those like adult kind of back and forths that the kids didn't even realize was happening?
Well, he didn't realize. I told him about it, that they were trying to take away the Title I services, but he didn't realize it because it would have been this week, and the choir was out of town, so he didn't get to feel the effects of it.
Mm-hmm. What would you say to those, whether it's the federal government, CPS, the Archdiocese, what would you say to those in charge about trying to protect this funding so that you aren't in limbo year after year?
I think they need to, everybody in general, all parties involved, need to be transparent with one another and make sure that the kids are first. This is not about them or anybody else. This is about the kids. And kids do need assistance sometimes. That 50 minutes him being in high school, that 50 minutes that he's in math class is not enough for him to completely understand what's going on. And high school most definitely moves faster than elementary school does. So it's most definitely something that all kids need, whether they're in public school or in Catholic or any type of private school, that service is provided to them.
Mm-hmm.
Let's keep the kids first.
Keep the kids first. I think that's maybe the most important thing here. So how is your son enjoying high school outside of these types of things?
He's enjoying it. He is adjusting to high school. He loves it. And he loves being at Leo.
Mm-hmm. Did he want to go there, or did you want to put him there because of the choir? I mean, the choir's been doing wonderful things on the world stage for the last few years.
Honestly, when I told him at first, he was like, I don't want to go to all boys school. Mm-hmm. But once he went there to visit, it changed his attitude totally. He was like, the principal loves the kids, everybody cares. And he was like, I want to go somewhere where they pay attention to me and they know who I am.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well,
and the choir actually, he joined the choir at a whim. I did not expect that to happen.
Oh, wow. Well, you know, I'm sure they're famous on campus.
Right. He's happy. He's enjoying it. He's coming out, and it really has brought him out his shell a little bit more, mm-hmm. and he's doing great. He's adjusting very well.
Mm-hmm. Well, they have a wonderful thing going there at Leo High School, and I hope that your son continues to excel, and especially now with these services being restored. But we are going to continue to, ask more questions, especially with this year kind of coming to a close, and as you said, knowing that at least it's going to run through this year. But again, it would put more than 800 students at risk of losing these services going into the next year if they don't figure something out. And did anyone, you talked about transparency, did anyone give you all any indication as to why this was even an issue to begin with?
No, I was not aware of what the issue was. I was just told that it was being stopped suddenly. And until I've been watching it on the news is when I found out the other things about what was going on.
Okay. Yeah. Lots of questions still to be asked, but I'm glad that you
I didn't
all...
know it was a money issue.
Gotcha. Well, we'll keep asking questions, and like I said, we'll
Thank
see
you.
if if next year will be similar, or if maybe they've worked things out where there will be a through line, and you all will be just fine into the new year when he's going into his sophomore year.
I hope so.
Okay. You all have a great weekend. Thank you so much for making time for us here on the show. And I'm glad that things have worked out in this instance and hope that it continues to.
Hey, thank you very much.
All right.
You have a great weekend too.
Oh, thank you so much. Take care.
You too.
All right. 3:42 right now. And yes, in that statement from the Archdiocese of Chicago, they directly said they appreciated the efforts of CPS CEO Dr. Macklin King and her staff to restore these important services. And they also said that they really appreciate the outpouring of support that they heard from parents and others in recent days, that they're looking forward to things going forward in the months ahead to ensure that students with disabilities receive the academic support they need and they deserve, whether they're attending public or non-public schools like Tamika's son there at Leo Catholic High School. All right, let's take a quick 2-minute break, everyone, before we get into our final conversation here on the show for today and for the week. And boy, this is one that could literally save lives. All right, welcome back, everyone. 3:45 right now, and I'm really looking forward to our next conversation, as I think it's going to help a lot of people, because so many of us wear these devices on our arms, but maybe don't even realize all of the things that they could be telling us or the things that they could be giving us an indication of. We have a very powerful story from Carrie Silverman, who is a pharmacist, but she's really joining us today as a survivor. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Take me back to learning that your Apple Watch was giving you alerts that you needed to pay attention to.
So it was one day I was at work. I was sitting at my desk and I felt an alert on my watch, and it said that my heart rate had been below 50 for more than 10 minutes. And so I was like, as a pharmacist, I'm like, that's a bit unusual. And I felt fine. Nothing was wrong. So I continued to work, but I'd see if it happened again. And then a little while later, it happened again. Said that my heart rate was below 50 for more than 10 minutes. So again, I thought, that's odd because I felt fine. Nothing was bothering me. So then you can reset the level that it alerts you for. So I reset it to 45. And a little bit later, it happened again. And so then I was beginning to get more concerned. So, but I still felt fine. So you can actually do an EKG reading on your watch. So I did that, and I know what a normal one looks like. I don't know how to tell what they say if they're wrong, but I knew that mine did not look right. So I went to my husband, who's also a pharmacist, and I showed him, and I said, this is what's happening, but I feel fine. So we talked about it and decided I probably should go to the emergency room. So he drove me to the emergency room, and I walked into the emergency room. I was a little short of breath walking into the emergency room. But then when I got there, they did confirm that, in fact, my heart rate was low.
And what did they say that was an indication of?
So, they did an EKG, and then the emergency room doctor said he needed to go talk to cardiologist. And he came back and he said that I had what was called a second-degree heart block. And what that meant was that the electrical system of my heart wasn't working right, and that there's several different types, and the kind that I had was actually very unstable and could result in a cardiac arrest.
Oh my.
Mm-hmm.
So what did they do?
So the emergency room doctor, he was really nice, and he's like, I don't want to panic you, but they brought in a crash cart, and they put pads on me in case they needed to do what they call transcutaneous pacing, or shock my heart. And he said, you're going to need a pacemaker. So I was admitted to the hospital, and the next day I went for a pacemaker.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know I'm prying here, so if at any point I ask you something that's too personal, let me know. But had you ever had any heart issues before this?
No, never. I have other medical issues, but not heart issues.
Mm-hmm. And when you were in the emergency room, I mean, like he's saying, I don't want you to panic, but of course you're going to panic a bit when you start to see all of that. Like, I mean, are you starting to feel different once you got to the hospital, or were you still feeling fine?
No, I was still fine. I mean, they kept asking me, was I lightheaded? Was I dizzy? And I didn't have any of those. They had me get out of bed for a bit and stand up. And then they said, no, I need to get back in bed because that made it worse. And my heart rate actually was going down to 39 while I was in the emergency room.
Oh, my goodness.
And, yeah, they said frequently people will have lightheadedness or dizziness. You can pass out. Some people sometimes don't have any symptoms, like I did not. And, it could result in a cardiac arrest. So you could have a cardiac arrest while you were sleeping, or you could pass out at home, or you could be driving and that could happen. So I really consider I was very lucky that I was wearing my watch and they told me this before something worse happened.
Did the doctors kind of speak to that? Like how critical those alerts ended up being for you?
Yeah, they did. They said, sometimes they do have people that come in because their watch alerts them to something. But, I think about it, if I wasn't wearing that, I wouldn't have known. I mean, my heart rate was 39. That's pretty low. And, what if I would have had a cardiac arrest and I was home by myself, or if I was driving my car? But, how bad that could have turned out. So I feel like I'm really lucky that I was wearing my watch and I paid attention to it. And I think that that's something that's important because I felt fine, maybe if it happened to people, they would not pay attention to that and think that it was something to go to the emergency room, because maybe if you go to the emergency room and you're feeling fine, you kind of feel like maybe I don't really need to go, or this is silly going to the emergency room, but it turns out it was not.
Yeah. Or you could have been thinking, like, my watch is glitching.
Right. Well, that's what I thought the first time. I thought, well, maybe it's just something with my watch. But then when it kept happening, it was like, no, I think I need to go in and see somebody.
Wow. And, you know, what goes through your mind about, you mentioned a bit of it, like the what ifs, the you know, the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, the what ifs. Had you not been wearing that watch?
Right. Right. What if I wasn't, or I didn't have one? Right. And I had no reason to believe, because I had no heart issues, to believe that this would happen to me. I mostly used it for tracking my steps and seeing how much I was active, and, you know, for the fall risk, things like that, to alert somebody if I fell, but really never thought that the heart monitoring was going to affect me.
I'm totally with you on that. You know, that's probably, I don't know, you know, can't speak for everyone. None of us can, but that's not an area of my watch that I'm like dedicated to. So you wrote Tim Cook directly, like, hey man,
I did.
what did you put in your letter?
I basically, you know, I had Googled it afterwards, because people, you know, friends and family were like, you should really let Apple know. And then I just said, you know, I will, because they frequently hear their complaints about products. But I thought, you know, they might want to know that something that they did in technology that they work on saved somebody's life. So I emailed them and told them that, you know, the heart rate, pretty much what I just told you, that my heart rate had gone down, and I went to the emergency room and I needed an emergency pacemaker. And that saved my life, because I could have had a cardiac arrest if I had not been notified.
Yeah. And have you heard anything back?
Yeah, he said that he was glad that the watch helped me. And then somebody from their PR team called me to hear my story, and they said that they would use it internally to help, because it helps their developers to know that these things work.
Absolutely.
And they help people.
Yeah. You know, I'm thinking about like the Artemis 2 crew. There's a few things that pop in my head as I'm speaking to you. And one of them is the Artemis 2 crew. You know, you're up in space. All eyeballs are on them for this historic mission. And then it just so happens that a can of Nutella floats by as they're up there. And people are like, this is the best commercial they never had to pay for. But in a sense, the same for your story and an Apple Watch. I mean, I'm thinking much more about my Apple Watch just after hearing your story than I did before it.
Right, and I told, you know, I put it out on my social media afterwards when I got home from the hospital, and friends and family were like, yeah, I have one and it's in a drawer. Maybe I should really consider wearing that.
Yeah. And like you said, you definitely look at it for your steps. You look at it to make sure the rings close at the end of the day.
Right.
But you're not really thinking of like an EKG. What?
Yeah.
Doesn't go through your head, most of us.
It does not.
Yeah. And we're in the ECG app. So did you have, is that an additional thing that's loaded on there? Like, I'm going to have to go research all of this now.
Yeah, I believe it just comes on your watch. If it's probably, you know, I don't know what version watch it came on, but yeah, it's there. You can monitor your heart rate anytime. You can, and now I've come to learn that if you look at the health app on your phone, there's all kinds of heart data on there. It tells you all kinds of different things about your heart.
Yeah. Do you, and I'm looking at mine now, like I do see it. Do you obsess over looking at it now?
A little bit. Even though I know I have that pacemaker, and that is, you know, basically keeping me alive now. But I do look at it occasionally. I can see, you know, they have it set at to pace my heart if it goes below 60. So I can now see where sometimes my heart rate is at 60, and I'll know, oh, my pacemaker's working.
Yeah. Well, we're so glad that you got the alerts in time, that you have the pacemaker that's going to give you added years. And I hope that they are wonderful years. And thank you so much for sharing your story that could help someone else to have more memories as well.
Thank you. I hope it does.
We appreciate you being here.
Okay.
Continue to
Thank
be
you.
well. Have a great weekend.
All right, thank you. You too.
And everyone, we are sponsoring, our station, Fox Chicago, is sponsoring the American Heart Association's Heart Ball tonight, where we're going to continue to raise awareness and raise funds for more technology that's going to help save lives for many years to come. Certainly looking forward to that, and you can always support the AHA online. Let's get in a 2-minute break, and then we'll be back to close out the show. right, welcome back, everyone. 3:58 right now, so you know we're getting ready for the 4 o'clock news. Just want to quickly say how much we appreciate you being here with us each and every day during the week. We will be back here right at it 1 to 4 p.m. on Monday. Have a safe weekend. Be careful with the weather. Make sure you're paying attention to how things are going tonight and into the next couple of days. See you on Monday.